Hello, come in, come in. Anyway, nice to see you. Come and have a seat. I've just got a little dram of Port Charlotte. Anyway, you know, when last time we dipped into talking together, I so enjoyed reading that passage to you about Pippin and Merry first meeting Treebeard, and Treebeard's great vroom, 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 and how that was modelled on C.S. Lewis's voice. I just thought, you know, why don't we just carry on with a bit more Treebeard in the Ents, just for the fun of it. So I thought we might have the passage where Treebeard tells them about the Entwives. And I remember, I mean, I've read this book regularly since I was 16. And to be honest, when I was 16 or 17, I recognised there was a slightly kind of elegiac pastoral element here, but I didn't really get it. But now I'm, you know, a man of more than middle age. Maybe I do more. Anyway, you may remember that Treebeard takes them off to his place, and they have this wonderful. They start drinking their sort of special kind of Ent River, and they start growing a bit themselves, actually. And of course, eventually they begin to talk to him about what's brought them there, and he realises that Saruman has been getting out of hand and is a problem, and he's beginning to realise he must rouse the Ents. And there's a wonderful bit where he's running through in his mind whom he can call on, and then realises that we are so few, so few. Of course, that's one of the great themes of The Lord of the Rings, is the few. We happy few, you know, who have to stand up to things. So the hobbits heard him murmuring again. He seemed to be counting on his fingers. Fangorn, Finglaff, Fladriff, aye, he sighed. And there's a wonderful list of wonderful Ent names. And he concludes, what a pity. There are so few of us. Why are there so few? We'll start reading now. Why are there so few? When you've lived in this country so long, asked Pippin. Have a great many died? Oh, no, said Treebeard. None have died from inside, as you might say. Some have fallen in the evil chances of the long years, of course, and more have grown tree-ish. But there were never many of us, and we have not increased. There have been no entings, no children, as you would say, for a terrible long count of years. You see, we lost the Entwives. Oh, how very sad, said Pippin. How was it that they all died? Oh, they didn't die, said Treebeard. I never said died. We lost them. We lost them, and we can't find them. He sighed. I thought most folk knew that. There were songs about the hunt of the Ents for the Entwives, sung among elves and men from Mirkwood to Gondor. They cannot have quite forgotten. That's a wonderful picture of Treebeard here, melancholily thinking about the loss of the Entwives. Absolutely fantastic. Well, I'm afraid the songs have not come west over the mountains to the Shire, said Merry. Won't you tell us some more? Sing us one of the songs. This is just a wonderful. You see this all the time in The Lord of the Rings. The free peoples, of whom one would consider the Ents. Remember, we had that list of the free peoples that when Treebeard was listing them all, and you know, the dwarves and the elves and the men, but among the free peoples of Middle Earth, they're really interested in each other. They're not all saying everybody's got to be like a dwarf or everybody's got to be like an elf. Or they're really interested in them. And you see that, of course, supremely in the friendship of Legolas and Gimli. But here are the hobbits just genuinely wanting to hear an Ent song. That might be a very good thing if we met across cultures and said, sing us some of your songs. Won't you tell us more, or sing us one of the songs? Yes, I will indeed, said Treebeard, seeming pleased with the request. But I cannot tell it properly, only in short, and then we must end our talk. Tomorrow we have councils to call and work to do, and maybe a journey to begin. It's rather a strange and sad story, he went on, after a pause. When the world was young and the woods were wide and wild, the Ents and the Entwives, and they were Ent maidens then, the loveliness of Fimbrathil, of one limb, the light-footed, in the days of our youth. They walked together and they housed together, but our hearts did not go on growing in the same way. The Ents gave their love to things they met in the world, and the Entwives gave their thought to other things. For the Ents loved the great trees and the wild woods and the slopes of the high hills, and they drank from the mountain streams and ate only such fruit as the trees let fall in their path, and they learned of the elves and spoke with the trees. But the Entwives gave their minds to the lesser trees, and to the meads and the sunshine beyond the feet of the forest. And they saw the sloe in the thicket, and the wild apple, and the cherry blossoming in spring, and the green herbs in the waterlands in summer, and the seeding grasses in the autumn fields. What a glorious sentence that is. They did not desire to speak with these things, but they wished them to hear and obey what was said to them. The Entwives ordered them to grow according to their wishes, and bear leaf and fruit to their liking, for the Entwives desired order and plenty and peace, by which they meant that things should remain where they had set them. So the Entwives made gardens to live in. But we Ents went on wandering, and we only came to the gardens now and again. But when the darkness came in the north, the Entwives crossed the great river and made new gardens and tilled new fields, and we saw them more seldom. And after the darkness was overthrown, the lands of the Entwives blossomed richly, and their fields were full of corn. Many men learned the crafts of the Entwives and honoured them greatly. But we were only a legend to them, a secret in the heart of the forest. Yet here we still are, while all the gardens of the Entwives are wasted. Men call them the Brown Lands now. I remember, it was long ago, in the time of the war between Sauron and the men of the sea, desire came over me to see Fimbrathil again. Very fair she was still in my eyes when I had last seen her, though little like the Ent maiden of old. For the Entwives were bent and brown by their labour, their hair parched by the sun to the hue of ripe corn, and their cheeks like red apples. Yet their eyes were still the eyes of our own people. We crossed over Anduin and came to their land, but the Entwives were not there. Long we called and long we searched, and we asked all the folk that we met which way the Entwives had gone. Some said they had never seen them. Some said that they had seen them walking away west, and some said east, and others south. But nowhere that we went could we find them. Our sorrow was very great. Yet the wild wood called, and we returned to it. For many years we used to go out every now and again and look for the Entwives, walking far and wide and calling them by their beautiful names. But as time passed, we went more seldom and wandered less far, and now the Entwives are only a memory for us, and our beards are long and grey. The elves made many songs concerning the search of the Ents, and some of the songs passed into the tongues of men. But we made no songs about it, being content to chant their beautiful names when we thought of the Entwives. Well, of course, that's what poetry is, really. It's the chanting of beautiful names. We believe that we may meet again in the time to come, and perhaps we shall find somewhere a land where we can live together and both be content. But it is foreboded that that will only be when we have both lost all that we now have. And it may well be that that time is drawing near at last, For if Sauron of old destroyed the gardens, the enemy today seems likely to wither all the woods. There was an Elvish song that spoke of this, or at least so I understand it. It used to be sung up and down the great river. It was never an Entish song, mark you. It would have been very long, a very long song indeed in Entish. But we know it by heart and hum it now and again. Well, this is how it runs in your tongue. It's a sort of conversation between the Ent and the Entwives. Ent. When spring unfolds the beech and leaf and sap is in the bough, when light is on the wildwood stream and wind is on the brow, when stride is long and breath is deep and keen the mountain air, come back to me, and say my land is fair. And the Entwife. When spring is come to garth and field and corn is in the blade, when blossoms like a shining snow is on the orchard laid, when shower and sun upon the earth with fragrance fill the air, I'll linger here and will not come, because my land is fair. And the Ent. When summer lies upon the world and in a noon of gold, beneath the roof of sleeping leaves the dreams of trees unfold, when woodland halls are green and cool and wind is in the west, come back to me, and say my land is best. And the Entwife. When summer warms the hanging fruit and burns the berry brown, when straw is gold and ear is white and harvest comes to town, when honey spills and apple swells though wind be in the west, I'll linger here beneath the sun, because my land is best. And the Ent. When winter comes, the winter wild that hill and wood shall slay, when trees shall fall and starless night devour the sunless day, when wind is in the deadly east, then in the bitter rain, I'll look for thee and call to thee, I'll come to thee again. The Entwife. When winter comes and singing ends, when darkness falls at last, when broken is the barren bough and light and labour past, I'll look for thee and wait for thee until we meet again. Together we will take the road beneath the bitter rain. And then both together. Together we will take the road that leads into the west, and far away we'll find a land where both our hearts may rest. That is magnificent. It's just so good. The evocation of male and female, but also of the kind of the wild woods and the mountains and then the meads and the valleys. And we kind of know these are different but complementary, and we're longing for the way, as it were. When we're too much in the fallow fields, we're longing for the mountains, but there'll be no mountain climbers without the nurturing of the fallow fields. And then that beauty of the way that whole song goes through all the seasons. And the bitterness of winter is totally realistically. And yet there's this promise of the West and the land where both our hearts may rest. And it anticipates for us what we'll see in its own way when we see Frodo and the others taking the last of the ships from the Grey Havens to sail into the utmost west. You feel that somehow there's a place for the Ents and the Entwives there as well. It's a poem of celebration of things as they are now, complete realism about loss, and yet a final hope. I mean, it's absolutely glorious. Anyway, thank you for indulging me and letting me read it. It's a pleasure to be with you again. Cheers.